It's painful to watch, honestly. Him struggle that hard. He goes from always when he's in rhythm, he goes, I shot him in the face twice, 2 to the face. He fell. I shot him a third time in the head, and I moved them all. In fact, even the moving them all story is off. There's other stories where he says Amal fell into my arms. There's stories where he says, as I moved them all, I shot him. Well, you can't do both. And there's other stories where he says, I moved them all, and I shot him. He's wildly inconsistent with the Amal story, but he's very consistent with him taking 3 shots, and now he doesn't know if he took 2 or 3 shots, and now he has to assume that Osama bin Laden was not hit before he got there. You show this, that you show a 2022 interview of Rob O'Neill unquestioned, and he's polished.
Right.
You get this thing a few years earlier, and you question him. It seems like he falls apart. What's your take from it?
Well, as you pointed out, Brent, you really don't have to be a deception expert to see the stress and anxiety there, which, again, the key, of course, whenever you look at something like that, the key is putting the stress or anxiety in context. And in context of this particular question, you have deception, because that's what you have here. And it's littered with deception. Not only do you have a very high blink rate, you have several extended blinks, which is a sign of anxiety. Again, that in context is deception, because he knows he has to be deceptive there. And you have he says the personal pronoun I 7 times. I counted in the first 10 seconds. And then, of course, you have the stuttering. Then the part, of course, about, well, I have to assume. I assume that I'm the one. Well, why would you have, if what you're saying is, why would you have to assume you were there? And if you took the shots, then why would you have to assume? And now he's saying that again, which is definitely a contradiction of the previous version or subsequent, anyway, version of the event. I don't know which interview came first, that the point man didn't shoot, which is in direct conflict to what Rob has stated previously or subsequent.
Right. I've seen this a couple times, and he bounces back and forth, and he goes, well, he didn't shoot. Well, he didn't shoot when I was there, as if to kind of cover his basis, about him shooting or not shooting. He just couldn't be any more wishy-washy during this whole process once he gets questioned.
Yeah, he's obviously the question, and it's not even a difficult question. It's a question that the interviewer asks here, and obviously a deceptive response. No question about that. In fact, I'm going to use that in my class.
Really?
Oh yeah, there's no question. Yeah.
I thank you for your time and not be offensive, but you weren't there. How can you have an opinion on it?
Because that's what we do.
It's funny because Rob's stories conflict Rob's stories more than any other stories.
Right.
That's absolutely
right.
True.
When someone tells a truthful story, when someone tells a truthful version of an event, there's no problem with additional details being mentioned in the story as long as those details don't contradict or conflict with the previous version of the event by the same person. And you don't expect multiple people of the same event to give you the lockstep same version because they have different perspectives. And that's fine, but it's when that a story A cannot be true if story B is true.
Yeah.
Right. That's when you have to resolve the issue. And that is certainly littered with deception. You don't have to be an expert, like I said, with a statement analysis or body language to see the deception there.
Well, it's really good to have someone put it and articulate how, because we just knew, we knew he was lying.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Listen, I always tell people that to take my class, right? It's one thing to know that someone, you think that someone is being deceptive, but the difference in having this training or having that background is you can articulate exactly why it is, where the deception is. And there's no question, not just the stuttering, the heavy blink rate, the extended blinks, which is not something he was doing beforehand. This is totally triggered by this question. And the heavy use of the personal pronoun I. People don't just talk like that. It's you're under high anxiety or stress, and it's I, it's a stutter and it's a high use of the personal pronoun I.
Well, that's. I hope we did a good job of really laying this out. I hope everyone stayed with us. During this is a little bit longer podcast than you normally do, but I felt
this is going to be fun.
I felt it important to come back on your podcast, and it's where it started. It's where I felt like it should continue.
I feel like this is probably just the beginning. If I had to guess, not saying it's going to blow up, Fox News is going to be covering it, but I do believe that this is starting to open a lot of doors. And if to anybody listening or watching, if you could not be upset that you were lied to, and don't let that cloud just critical thinking, because everybody, if everybody was open to this, Sean Ryan would have to be like, fuck, I just did one of my best episodes off a lie. We met, or not met, but we went to street cop training where he did a huge "I killed Bin Laden" speech for an hour, and thousands of cops were like, "Oh my God, it's Rob O'Neill!"
Stood and gave him a standing applause,
and
stood in line to take pictures with him.
Everybody's going to have to go. Okay, I'm not. If you're going to be mad at anybody, don't be mad at the messenger,
and that's not and he's going to come back and say it. That's not a jealousy thing. I looked at that not as a jealousy. Like, oh, I wish that was me. I was in the Delta Force. It was disgusting to me that many people believe that that's the truth, and I knew differently from his own teammates and from the other men that were on that mission. Do not twist this into something that it's not. I'll tell you one more thing. I actually kind of didn't know if I was going to mention it or not, but I will. Let me tell you something an innocent person doesn't do. They don't text the podcast and say, hey, why would you say that about me? I'm paraphrasing this. You can post it from Rob O'Neill and say, we need to talk about this. There's a way that both of us can win.
Yeah. So
is that what he said?
Well, so one thing I've told people in messaging that I won't ever post an inbox, a direct message. That's more my moral compass. I won't ever, no matter what. But I will talk about it. And what he said was really like he was upset. Like, how could you guys do this? It was like something. And I said, hey man, well, we want to talk. And yeah, essentially he said, we can all prosper. I don't know how he thought it was going to happen. Like how, if you were going to lead him in and then let him go. But
I don't know. And I'll tell you, I understand that you may think it dirty to do that, but then you're no better than the SEAL Team 6 guys who knew the truth but wouldn't stand next to me with it. Not to put you on the spot, but I can't sit here and say, yeah, Rob O'Neill actually messaged you and said, hey, we need to talk about this. We can both profit from it, or you'd have to remember the words he
I don't remember
he used. We can both come out ahead on this. I'll challenge you to think about that. Otherwise, it goes back to Brent said something but then can't back it up. I know and
right.
No pressure.
Well, I just want to say I don't have a dog in the fight. I don't know Brent. I didn't know Brent before this. Brent simply asked me to, knowing my background or hearing about my background and skills, asked me to take a look at it, and I did. And I'll tell you what, if I would have found no signs of deception, I would have come in and said, I don't see any signs of deception. But it's not just when you're talking about the validity of somebody's story, you also look at consistencies. And is the story consistent? A truthful story is consistent. And again, not to say that different details can't be added or additionally, that's fine, as long as they don't conflict with or contradict another version of the event, particularly again by the same person. Then you have issues as well from a consistency standpoint.